Good morning. What a week in politics. With Herman Cain's exit from the race yesterday, the Republican field is down to 7. And here's how things in Iowa and New Hampshire look now. Exclusive results from our NBC Marist poll in New Hampshire has Mitt Romney on top over Newt Gingrich by 16 points. Ron Paul in third place with 16%. And in Iowa, Newt Gingrich ahead of Mitt Romney by 8 points, and Ron Paul again in third with 17%. Herman Cain there at 9%. A little later on, we'll show you how it looks when his support is taken out and redistributed to other candidates. Also, we have the Des Moines Register poll. They released it last night. Again, Newt Gingrich on top in Iowa, but again, underlining Ron Paul in second place, slightly ahead of Mitt Romney. So a lot to get to. We go inside the polls and look at some of the key moments from the week later in our political roundtable. But first, for a preview of the battle ahead this fall, when the president faces the Republican nominee, we have the senior advisor to the president's reelection campaign, David Alexrod, and the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Mr. Alexrod, I will begin with you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's talk jobs. And this is what the unemployment chart looks like for the Obama presidency, with that November number, 8.6%, dipping below 9% for the first time since all the way back in 2009. But not all good news. If you look inside the report, the New York Times editorialized it this way. We'll put it up on the screen. Properly understood, the Times writes, the new figures reveal more about the depth of distress in the job market than about real improvement in job prospects. Most of the decline in November's unemployment rate was not because jobless people found new work. Rather, it is because 315,000 people dropped out of the workforce, a reflection of extraordinarily weak demand by employers for new workers. Do the new numbers change the way the president looks at the economy?
David, we've never hung our hat on one number, and obviously we continue to have big challenges, but let's recognize that we've created 2.9 million private sector jobs in the last 21 months. The first month we took office, the country was losing 750,000 jobs in one month. So what we need to do is accelerate that, which is why the president has pushed the American Jobs Act. And the key, one of the key proponents is the continuation of the payroll tax cut. That is the big battle, and that is the big question we have to solve right now. Mr. Priebus, I hope, will explain why the Republican Party in Congress won't extend that. They would sooner let taxes go up on 160 million working Americans than ask a little more of 300,000 millionaires. And that doesn't make sense. That's not good for our economy.
But the Democrats are willing to fund that a different way, as Senator Schumer said on this program last week. In the end, do you think it will pass?
Well, that's really up to them. There's certainly a willingness on the part and a commitment on the part of the president, on the part of the Democratic Party in Congress. We have yet to hear from the Republicans. In the summer, they said they didn't want to extend it. And it is unfathomable to me as to why they want to raise taxes on 160 million working Americans. It's not good at any time, but it's certainly not good now.
You've said before that the economy is a great predictor of elections. And you can talk about how things bad were, how much worse they could have become. Inevitably, there's going to be a lot of voters who look at the jobless situation and say, this president simply hasn't gotten it done.
Well, look, I think people are more, there's no doubt that the economy needs to pick up. We've made some progress. We need to make a lot more. But there's an even larger question, which is, how do we restore the economic security that middle-class Americans have lost, not just over the last 3 years, but over a long period of time? That's a lot about what this election is going to be about. And what we've heard from the Republican candidates is not a plan for that. They want to continue to give tax cuts to the very wealthy, except double down on those. They think if we roll back the rules on Wall Street and let Wall Street write its own rules, that will somehow accelerate the economy and profit everyday Americans. That is not a prescription for rebuilding middle-class security. The president has it. It goes to education. Goes to creating the advanced manufacturing jobs of the future. It goes to making smart investments that will give people better opportunities. And so we need a plan and a vision that has at its core the welfare and the chances of the middle class in this country.
As you know, having been in Washington, Washington is failing the American people when it comes to dealing with the debt crisis in this country. The super committee has failed, the debt debacle over the summer. The president started a debt commission. he convened it. It was Simpson Bowles. That's the vernacular in Washington. They came out with some pretty tough recommendations: tax reform, tax increases, a lot of spending cuts. But nothing ever came of it. Warren Buffett said this week that it was a travesty that was simply ignored. Alan Simpson said, telling Time magazine, he was the co-chair, that Bill Clinton would have actually embraced it. This president did not. Governor Christie of New Jersey said this week the following about President Obama.
I think it's a sad day in our country's history to have a bystander in the Oval Office, and that's what we have.
The president says we cannot wait, we cannot wait. He did when it came to Simpson Bowles.
Well, let me just say one thing about what Governor Christie said about being a bystander. I watched this president make some very difficult decisions, difficult political decisions at the beginning of this administration to right the financial sector, to get this economy out of the free fall that it was in, to save the American auto industry. The candidate that he's endorsed, Governor Romney, said he would have let Detroit go bankrupt. We would have lost 1 million more jobs. So I don't think he's in a position to talk about who was a bystander.
Well, what about the debt, though? I mean, this was a huge issue.
First of all, let's recognize the president appointed Simpson and Bowles and that commission. A lot of the ideas that they proposed animated his discussions with Speaker Boehner in the summer. He was prepared to lock arms with the Speaker and move forward on a $4 trillion plan to reduce the deficit. The Speaker returned to his caucus, and he had his legs cut out from under him, and that was the end of it.
Well, but here, Erskine Bowles said there was a different calculus in the White House, and it came down to politics. Watch.
We were really surprised, and you know, my belief is that most of the members of the economic team strongly supported it. They got it. And like every White House, there's a small cabal of people that surround the president that he trusts and works with, and I believe it was the Chicago guys, the political team, that convinced him that it would be smarter for him to wait and let Paul Ryan go first, and that he would look like the sensible guy in the game.
Now, let me just explain that a little bit before you respond. So Paul Ryan, the budget chairman, puts out his proposal, his budget, including Medicare reform. And the feeling in the White House was, let him go first, he'll look unreasonable. But never did the president say, forget the other side. I put this commission together. I'm going to lead. I'm going to say to the American people, we've got to take these tough steps. This commission has come back. Let's do this. And by the way, you're one of the Chicago guys, right?
Well, I presume so, but I have to say that we did what we felt was in the best interest of moving this issue forward. And as I said, I think we came awfully close in the summer to getting there, informed by the principles of this commission. I think had we simply thrown it out there, it would have been savaged and torn apart by all sorts of interest groups and parties.
So was healthcare. You persisted with that?
No. Our goal was to succeed with this, and we took the path that we thought was best. And remember, the president has already moved on $1 trillion or more of deficit reduction. He's proposed $3 trillion more. I think we're going to get there, David, by the end of next year, because I think the trigger is in place. The president's not going to unlock that trigger until Congress acts. We are going to pursue many of the principles that were contained within that plan. The question, though, isn't whether you take symbolic acts. The question is whether you make progress.
Did the president miss an opportunity to lead on slashing the debt?
No, I think leading is moving things forward. I don't think that had we thrown the proposal out to be savaged and defeated, that would have been moving the proposal forward.
Let me ask you about politics. Herman Cain, the big political story on the Republican side of the ledger, he is out now. What impact has he had on this race?
Well, I don't know. I'll let Mr. Priebus discuss that. I don't pretend to be an expert on Republican politics.
Do you think his position in the race has ultimately helped the president's cause? I mean, there was a kind of reality television aspect to certainly his speech yesterday and aspects of his campaign.
You know, my general view is I don't think the Republican debates have helped the Republican cause, because it has elevated ideas that I don't think the American people embrace. I don't think the American people think that the way forward is to continue to give tax breaks to the people at the very top, shift the burden to the middle class and people who are trying to become middle class, cut regulation on Wall Street, and let them write their own rules as they were doing before the crisis. And that's what we keep hearing from all these candidates.
There are a number of candidates. It's now down to 7, but the White House seems to only be concerned about Mitt Romney. And the charge against him has been pretty blunt. David Plouffe on this program, October 30th, said this about Mitt Romney.
He has no core. And, you know, every day almost it seems to be we find another issue.
The chair of the Democratic National Committee, echoing that this past week on MSNBC, said the following.
They need to understand that this is a person who has no moral core, no conviction, willing to change his position based on the political winds and the way they blow.
No moral core, no core. I mean, this is a man who's been married over 40 years, who has been, in effect, a priest in his faith as a bishop in the Mormon church. Is this not underline what is the politics of personal description? Destruction, I should say?
I admire his family, and I admire his...
What does that mean,
This is about public character. This is about public character. And by the way, it's not just Democrats, but most of the Republicans who are making the same case, David. John Huntsman's running ads, or his supporters are in New Hampshire on that right now. We got another example of it again last night on the Fox segment that with Mike Huckabee.
Well, you think it's an overstatement they just say no moral core, that Mitt Romney has no moral core?
Let me make this point about what happened last night. Last night, Governor Romney said that the EPA was the president's tool to crush the private enterprise system. When he was governor of Massachusetts, he boasted that he had the toughest rules against CO2 emissions from plants, that he had the toughest rules when it comes to climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. And now it's like that never happened. Now he's on the other side of it. This is the reason, I suppose, why he and his aides absconded with the hard drives from their computers when they left the governor's office, because they think they can just erase the past, that what you said before doesn't matter now. And so, yes, when it comes to his public character, he doesn't have a core. It has nothing to do with his personal life. I honor his personal life. I respect his personal life. But this is about how you behave in the public arena.
But, you know, the Republicans will make the point that in your political past, in the Obama campaign of 2008, this is standard operating procedure. The way you attack now Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, saying that she was on different sides of issues, that she would, you know, have different views on the same issue. And here, the chair of the Democratic National Committee saying he has no moral core. Does this not portend a very negative personal campaign from the president against Mitt Romney?
As I said, let me say again, I honor his personal life. I respect him as a father. I respect his religious convictions. But this isn't about that. This is about how you behave in public. And he seems to think that every day is a new day, that he can simply change all of his positions depending on who his audience is or what the political circumstances. And that is not what you want in a president of the United States. So is that an issue? Yes, that's an issue.
Newt Gingrich, does he have a core? Is he a formidable candidate that the president faces?
Well, I mean, I think that's what voters are going to have to decide. He's obviously a man with expansive thoughts and ideas that he expresses widely, and we'll see how that plays. I don't know the answer to that yet.
Is he somebody that this White House will start to target in the same way they've targeted Mitt Romney?
Look, let's be clear. Every single day, Republicans are out there, Republican candidates are out there attacking the president for everything, every ill, real, and imagined. That is the nature of politics. We have legitimate differences with the Republican Party, mostly about how we rebuild an economy that works for the middle class in this country. We're going to have a big debate about that. And yes, we're going to challenge them when we think they are wrong. We're going to challenge them when we think that they are changing positions or cutting their positions in order to fit the particular political moment, because we can't afford that kind of leadership right now. That's what campaigns are. They're tough. They're comparative, because people have to make a choice, and they have to decide who's going to provide the leadership that they want in the future that will relate to their lives and their prospects.
We're going to leave it there. David Alexrod,
good to be with you.
Thank you very much, as always.